I am the Judas Resurrection.
Siete. Ah. It's a pomegranate. It's a pomegranate. It means something. It's a pomegranate. There's somebody that once told me when I was in the dorms at the Michigan State University Mary Mayo Hall. That actually, I think, was at Mason Hall. That was young Robert Plant. Not the Robert Plant you're thinking about. This guy was black and he never heard of Led Zeppelin in his life, so it was a different character. He once told me that it was not an apple on the tree of life, the tree of knowledge that was in the Garden of Eden. He said it was a quince. And I was like, a quince? He said, yeah, it's not an apple. It's like an apple. And I said, oh boy, that's interesting to hear. And I have since looked it up just today, actually, because I always thought a quince was meant to be a pomegranate, but they're two different fruits. And it turns out a pomegranate, it has more going for it than a quince. And it makes me think of how when I was at the borders of Tibet, I walked 13 days, 3-day walk from the Tibetan borders, I'm supposing, before we took off on our trek on the sacred pilgrimage around Mele Shweshan, which no one has ever summited as far as I can tell to this day. There was a night before we left, I think, that there was a child having its first birthday. And so they have a party. The Tibetan people, they're the cowboys. I can't remember what their real name was, what the name of their ethnicity was, but they're a certain group of people. And they celebrate the first birthday and the 12th birthday. None other. It happened to be this little kid's first birthday. He was the man of honor right there. He's like, ooh, because I made it to my first birthday, I'm probably going to make it to my 12th. And if I can make it to my 12th, I can breed and my soul will survive. But then there was a little girl there. Look at her. She was there also. It wasn't her birthday, but I found her to be just very beautiful. And I had to take a picture of her. Don't worry about the look on her face. Everybody's afraid of me. She's beautiful. And we met these people, and that little girl would show herself 2 more times on my walk around Mele Shweshan on this holy pilgrimage where other people didn't have experiences, but I have experiences where there were translations to another language that I didn't know that were readable, that they weren't just mind fucks. I had stuff happen that translated between languages I did not speak, but was able to interpret, having written it down right after it, over my shoulder. What? Nobody there. And then translating it through my translation book, saying, it It translates roughly to the road he walks, he carries a heavy load. What? I'm half hillbilly, half Polak. What can they expect of me? Well, just the possibility that I'm able to carry things and they're heavy. I'm looking, there's me dancing around. I'm not showing you that. I'm not showing you that. But I am showing you this place where the second time I saw not the same girl, but the same girl. The same look. But we were at a shrine along the way, not having entered Tibet yet, but right there near it. And there was a little girl. She was there as I was getting ready to walk up out of there after having not given money, because my friend said, if you give that guy money, he'll say a prayer for you. And I looked at my friend and I said, well, that's very much like religion, isn't it? Because I've been told that the way is not religious. It's just the way. Now you're going to be charging me to say a prayer for me? If you can do any better than me, I invite you to test it out, and then I might pay you something. But every prayer I've ever said for myself, cigarette went out, has been fucked over like Satan was on the fucking party line. So I quit praying at 23. There you go. But on the way out of there, back up the fucking goat path and away, there was a little girl that looked like that one. And she handed out to me a pomegranate. It had bites taken out of it like it was hers, little bites. And I said, I'll have some. And Jimmy looked at me and he said, you should have some. He said, then he tried to tell me how to chew this fruit. This little girl handed me this. I felt like it was an offering. You know, I was to be a priest in the Catholic rites. I know what it looks like when somebody brings the priest something for the gods. Felt like it was an offering. I didn't want to take her food, but I knew she wanted me to have it, and I know the power of a gift and how it shares between gift givers and receivers, mostly in the receiver, when a gift giver feels like the receiver really liked it as much as the giver thought they might. It makes them feel good. I wasn't going to take a bite. Mm. 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 Oh, that's good. You see the little seed pods in there too. You're supposed to chew around them like a grape with seeds. You chew off the pocket and spit out the seeds. But I said, hell with it. I'm eating all of it. Seeds and all. If there's anything I'm supposed to be receiving, it's meant to be everything. Mm. So there's that. And then later on, I saw another girl with those same ponytails, just like that. And she just watched me the same way they all did. And she didn't seem to be against me. She just watched. And then she disappeared as I prayed. I was in a Myers store the other day. I went in to buy beer and water, fluids. Dr. Strangelove. I won't be put down so readily. And I saw the pomegranates right there. And I said, oh, I have to get one. And I stopped in front of the pile of them. And I just waited, like Dr. Mira Zusman said, you ask which one wants to come with me. And so I did, and I stood there. And that one called to me. And you can see before I took a bite out of it, it was perfect. It was as good as any of them. I took it. I bought it. And you'd be surprised how much time it takes to chew up a bite of a pomegranate. You'd also be surprised that this very pomegranate in the USA today costs $3.99 all by itself. I thought, oh, that must be coming from another fucking state, another country is what I was thinking. I didn't know they grew them here. Just stuff from the tree of life. But no, as it turns out, it's in California, followed by Texas and Arizona. They can grow pomegranate trees. And I talked to Charles Bangweiner today, because he sent me a picture this morning because I talked to him a couple of days ago. I said, hey, look at this. I showed him pomegranate that I found. And he's like, oh, that's something. I'd forgotten about talking about it because we moved on from there. This morning he sent me a picture of a pomegranate tree. I said, what the hell? Where did he get that? It was on his morning walks that he takes. I said, oh. And so I thought, maybe I should look into the idea of the spiritual meaning behind a pomegranate. And so I looked it up. And it came up with pomegranate and pomegranate tree. I got the pomegranate. So I started with that. And it says it's about fertility, abundance, and eternal life. That's the tree, actually. I looked that up first to see the further meaning of it. But after that, I looked up the fruit, just the one all by itself. And it speaks about fertility, abundance, and prosperity. That's the fruit itself, prosperity. Also representing death, resurrection. I am the Judas resurrection. Me. Judas resurrection. We are the Judas resurrection. And eternal life. That's the fruit. Speaks of death and resurrection. The multitude of seeds in there. I first brought up the fruit. He took his walk that he's been taking for over a year, 3 to 4 times a week. And this morning he saw a pomegranate tree. Why did he see that pomegranate tree? Was it never there? That's ridiculous. It's been there all along. It's because we get caught up noticing things that don't matter and not noticing things that don't matter. But that it came to fruition that I got this pomegranate and spoke to him of it. He had a realization. It's a connection. And he saw that he'd been seeing it all along. It's not about knowing the answers to anything. It's about communicating with each other, not being afraid to just talk about weird stuff. And then we start to recognize the connections that are between us all. Him seeing that tree of life, that pomegranate tree, whereas I saw only the fruit, he eliminated the death and the resurrection from the whole prospect. Not that he eliminated it, but he took it to the next step. And he took it to fertility, abundance, and eternal life. You talk about fertility. It's not about having a baby. Fertility is having an idea. You can foment characters. You can make everything more than it was. You can do it abundantly, and you can do it eternally. I'm very happy that things happened as they did. And I guess that's the way it's supposed to be. Why? You're here.